Hey everyone, my name's Katie, and today we'll be talking about all things art. If you've ever wondered how big your art should be, how high it should be hung, whether it needs a frame, what color should be in it, and other questions like that, then this video is for you. Artwork is one of the best ways to add color to your home, fill an empty wall, pull a room together, but it's also one of the easiest things to get wrong. And one of the mistakes I see most often is the size of your artwork. It's important to make sure your art is big enough. When you're hanging art above something like a bed or a couch or a console table, it should span about 2/3 the width of the furniture below. This can be accomplished using one big piece or by grouping multiple pieces together in a set or a gallery wall. Cost used to be a major barrier to getting large-scale artwork, but that's no longer the case now that digital art prints have come to the scene. You can check out places like Etsy, Juniper Print Shop, Olive and Oak, and other online art curators to find high-quality scans of beautiful artwork that you can download to your computer and print at your local print shop. And that's how you can get big, beautiful artwork at a fraction of the price you would otherwise pay. Now, on the other hand, you don't want your pieces to be too big either. When you're hanging art on a narrow stretch of wall, like between windows or at the end of a hallway, the pieces should ideally be just over half the width of the space you're filling. Vertical vignettes look best in narrow spaces, so that's when you stack multiple pieces or multiple objects on top of one another. For instance, you might have a chair or a piece of furniture on the floor with a few pieces of art above that and then a beautiful light fixture topping everything off. Okay, now let's talk about the spacing of your artwork. When you're grouping multiple pieces together side by side or in a gallery wall, they actually want to be hung quite close together. Small to medium pieces should only be hung about 1.5 to 2.5 inches apart, while medium to larger pieces can be hung 3 to 4 inches apart. When the gaps get too big, things start looking a little awkward and disconnected, and while this process can take a little bit of eyeballing, when in doubt, just tighten up the gaps. Okay, on to height. You may be wondering how high off the floor your art should be hung, and the answer is probably a bit lower than you think. The center of your piece should be about 60 inches off the floor. This can be raised slightly for larger pieces or for super tall ceilings, but really, regardless of your ceiling height, you should never hang your art too high because you want to keep it at eye level. If you have really high ceilings with lots of vertical space to fill, consider wall treatments or ceiling treatments or really big, beautiful light fixtures to fill that space instead. Now, when you're hanging art above furniture like a couch, a bed, or a console table, the bottom of the piece should sit between 4 to 8 inches above the top of the furniture. And remember that large pieces of art can also be leaned against the wall, particularly bigger pieces from taller surfaces like fireplace mantles or tall dressers. Now, you may be wondering if you should add frames to your artwork, and there's quite a bit to consider here, so I'll just hit the highlights. When it comes to choosing a frame, you want to pick a color that coordinates with both your art and your home. For instance, black frames look beautiful with black and white photos and sketches, but they shouldn't be used if you don't have any other black in your home because they'll have nothing to relate to. In that case, you might want to use white instead. Generally speaking, white is a pretty safe and simple choice for frames, but it really should be matched to the other whites in your home. You can look to your walls, your trim, or your furniture to find your guiding white, but just like the black, if you don't actually have any white in your home, then you shouldn't throw in white picture frames. Wood frames are beautiful and complement most art. Just be sure to match them to one of the other wood tones in your home for a really cohesive look and feel. Silver can risk looking a little bit glam or dated, so to stay on the safe side, I'd opt for a narrower frame in a brushed finish. Gold frames are really classic and beautiful, and they look really great with a lot of different art. But once again, just make sure that gold is repeated elsewhere in your decor so everything looks tied together. When it comes to using mats, there are a couple things to consider. Mats are great for increasing the size of your smaller pieces, and they can also provide visual relief when hanging art over top of wallpaper or boldly colored walls. I think it's best to use mats with smaller pieces and let your larger pieces shine on their own. And just like frames, when it comes to color, you want to make sure that your mat matches both your art and your home. For a subtle, sophisticated look, choose the palest neutral color that works with both the art and your room. Because again, you don't want stark white mats floating around in your otherwise earthy room, but nor do you want a really creamy mat right up against a bright white wall. Ideally, you want to coordinate your mats with your wall color, trim color, or a large piece of furniture in the room. Okay, and last but definitely not least, what sorts of colors should you be looking for in your artwork? So in a nutshell, the colors in your art should either reflect the colors that are already in your room or the colors you want to decorate with. This generally means choosing art with more muted colors because while brightly colored pieces are super eye-catching, they can be a little bit tougher to coordinate with unless A, you boldly embrace color on your walls, finishes, and furnishings, or B, you have an intentionally achromatic home in order to support lots of boldly colored art. In our apartment, I had already begun decorating with peaches and corals and golds when my partner Jake wanted to throw in a green duvet cover. And so how did I make that all work? By finding a beautiful piece of art that had all the colors we were already working with, plus the green that Jake wanted to incorporate. I know artwork can be tricky, but it adds so much to your home when you get it right. I really hope this video was helpful. If it was, let me know by giving it a thumbs up, and we'll see you here next time for the next design video.